The biggest advice I can give anybody is throw it away and play. You've done your work, throw it away. Nobody's interested in seeing the actor's process. What they want to see is the human condition.
Hi, welcome to Common Sense Mamita. I'm Lydia Nicole, and if it's your first time and you are interested in acting tips, showbiz insights, and life lessons, you've come to the right place. So make sure you subscribe and you hit the bell so you can get all the notifications. Well, today, let me tell you, you guys are in for a super duper treat, because I have one of the best people in the industry right here next to me. Accomplished actor, brilliant acting teacher. He has been in so many projects. Without further ado, I am so happy to introduce you to Ken Lerner. In auditions, I get my sides to read. And today what we have different that we didn't have before is self-taping. I get my sides and I'm going to set myself up to self-tape. Can I cheat and maybe have like 3 or 4 things that I bring into a self-tape?
Like a prop or something?
Yeah, maybe a prop.
I mean, self-taping, there's, you can go for it with props, and you can have, if you are not off book, which I suggest you are off book big time on
And
a
off
self-tape.
book means
That you have it memorized.
Okay.
But if you aren't off book, have the paper. If your camera is cutting off here, have the paper down here. So if you need to glance, you can glance. Or have something written here
Tape it
that you
on
can
the side,
right,
yes.
that you can look. The biggest problem that people have with self-taping is they don't put the person reading with them right next to the camera. You never, ever, 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 ever look into the camera on a self-tape. But you look right next to the camera, which is where the person, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever it is reading with you, so that your eye line works. And then you have behind you not all of this. You have a yellow wall or a blue wall, just something so it doesn't
Neutral.
doesn't take anything away from the self-tape. And the great thing about self-taping, as you know, you can do it 1,000,000 times until you get it right. And when you send it, make sure you're not sending the stupid
The wrong one.
Right, you're sending the right one. Right.
Excellent. Going back to scene study, what advice do you give actors when they go off to rehearse that scene? How many times should they rehearse? What should they bring into the rehearsal, just as far as technique? What is that process?
Well, if it's a first rehearsal with another actor, let the actor live. Don't start dictating, you do this, I'll do this, you do this, I'll do this. See what's going on. It's all about chemistry when you're doing a scene with somebody. And then you got to figure out, okay, are we fulfilling what's going on in the scene? Is this working? And then it's a process of just going over it and going over it and going. I like to rehearse a lot when I was in scene class. And if you're ready, if you're prepared, then you're open to critique, you're open to adjustments, you're open to somebody helping you. If you're at home working with someone, and find the places where you're having a problem. Specify, this is what we need to work on right here. Also, as Roy taught us with the doings, so you have props in a scene. And it's so much different than an audition, because when you're doing a scene in scene class, you have your props, and the props help you, and you endow them with personal choices. And then I get on a set, a TV show or a movie, right before, an hour, 2 hours before I'm shooting, I go to the location where I'm shooting. I look at my props. I personalize my props. I make sure that it's not like the first time I'm using something when I'm supposed to have done it for 15 years. So you're using props to really help the scene. We'll go back to scene class. So in scene class, you're bringing in props that help you. You don't need to bring in abundance of props, but you do need props that you're going to use that might feed the scene.
And that are personal to you.
Personal to you. You personalize them.
That by you touching them and working with them, and there's a connection.
Roy used to say, have something in your pocket that nobody knows about, that you just touch and boom, all of a sudden something deep happens and nobody knows why, but it's because you personalize that and now you have a secret. Secrets are great.
And that also works in auditions, I find. Just one thing, not, because when you do go in to read, or you go in for a callback or whatever, what I used to like to use was a little necklace that had like a cross, or you
So it
or
meant something to
something that was on my body that I didn't bring in, but I had, or I would bring. At that time, they used to give you paper cups to get water,
Right.
so I would bring my water with me, and then I would make something with that.
Okay.
That it's something, nothing major, but just one thing that allows us to see the character.
Right. I think what Roy talked about, what I've been saying forever, is whatever works for you. There's no secret. I like to say we're not plumbers. Plumber takes a pipe, a 6-inch pipe with an 8-inch pipe. They put it together with a clamp, and it works, and the water goes through. Actors, it's all out in the cosmos. We never know what's going to work. That's why we experiment. That's why we try things. That's why there's a lot of tape in the cameras and stuff. You succeed, you fail. You succeed, but if you're not willing to fail, you're going to be boring. So you got to really try to shake it up.
How do you work with an actor who's very challenging and
Right.
refuses to do what you've asked them
Sometimes
to do?
it's not a case of refusing, it's a case of not knowing how to get there. I'm working with a girl who's probably one of the prettiest women I've ever seen in my life, and every time she has to do something where things are bad or she has to reflect on, she can't get there. And I keep talking to her about it, and she gets upset not getting there, and I say, use that. And then the second we start doing it again, she doesn't get there. And and it's cruel out there because there's a lot of pretty people. You have to be able to get where you need to go. I'm not saying you need to be emotional, but you need to play the stakes of a scene and get to wherever it is. I'm not a big believer if it says cry to cry, but I am a big believer in getting to that state where you could. People don't want to cry. People don't want to be emotional. Actors want to be emotional, the actors that can break through. But it's much more important to be able to access who you are and your personality.
You just got an audition and you have to go in and read.
Please, agents, hear me.
What is your process?
I go over the material, meaning I read the script a lot before I start working on it.
10 times, 5 times?
It was 5, 6 times to read the whole scene. And if it's 2 scenes, 3 scenes, read each one a lot. Then I start breaking it down. I write all over my material. I write choices. I write who I'm talking to. You notice that I'm not ever talking yet about memorizing, because it's not about memorizing yet. It's not about memorizing words. It's about choices, and it's about text analysis. I'm figuring out, what does my character want? How is my character going to get it? What's the obstacle stopping my character from getting it? How do I bring the best me trying to get what I want? And then I work on it and work on it. I'm working on it like crazy, because I don't want to go into that room not prepared. I want to go into it. I work a lot. And I've done lots and lots of stuff. Why? Because I'm ready. And then if they want me, they want me. If they don't want me, they're stupid. No. If they don't want me, it's because they want a different flavor.
Yes.
But I can only give them my flavor.
Yes. Yes. You auditioned, you now have booked the role. How do you now prepare for the job? Now because you prepared for the audition, now what do you do to prepare for the actual job?
Well, it depends. If it's a sitcom, there's a whole other rehearsal process. So, you're rehearsing on set and you're getting better and they're changing the material. If it's that's if it's a 3-camera sitcom or 4-camera or tape. If it's a drama or if it's a movie, then they're shooting out of order. So I'm always aware of where my character is in the process of the part. And then I'm getting ready just for the part that I'm shooting that day. So I'm really, really working and fine-tuning what I want in that day. And then the biggest advice I can give anybody is throw it away and play. You've done your work. Throw it away. Nobody's interested in seeing the actor's process. What they want to see is the human condition. So if you have done your work, hopefully it's there. And so I'm always ready because I've done a lot of work on it.
When you go on a set, how do you collaborate with the director, or how do you approach the director to either get information from the director beforehand? What, is there something you want from me? Or
I like to get on a set and see where people are at, see where the leads of the show are at, see the collaboration between the director talking to the lead actors. I learned a long time ago, that when you get on a set and you're doing a movie or a TV show, they give you little sides. And actors, a lot of the time, try to go, I don't need the sides, I have it memorized. And then they go into the scene to rehearse. And so you're working opposite William Hurt, you're working opposite George C. Scott, you're working opposite Tyne Daly. And all of a sudden the lines go out, and it's not about the lines at that moment, it's about figuring out the blocking, figuring out what's going on. There's plenty of time to do the other kind of work when you are absolutely rehearsing with the other actor. But at the beginning, it's about servicing what the DP needs, the director of photography, what the director has in mind in talking to you. I always ask questions to the director if I don't know what to do. If I do, I'm hoping that what I'm doing, they cast me. So they saw what I can do in the part. Now I have to come in with the confidence of knowing this is what I'm doing, and now I'm working opposite some wonderful, I've worked with great actors. And, great actors, it's like playing tennis with somebody that's real good. It improves your game. So you just go in there and you do what you do. And you got to trust that what you do works. What I like to say to students is, what you do in scene class, what you do is exactly what happens in TV shows and movies. It's just the stakes are higher, the money is better, and the exposure is great. But acting is acting. Be open. You come onto a set, you figure out what the lay of the land is, and you see, do you want to rehearse this again? Can we go over this? And then you take it from what's going on.
Working on different sets, which is the set that you learned the most, and what was it?
There's an actor named George C. Scott, one of the great actors of all time. I was doing Exorcist 3, and the director was a very big director. And the scene was where I come in, I'm the head of the hospital, and George C. Scott is in the room, and in the room are jars filled with tissue and blood, and that's his best friend who's been killed and stuffed into these jars. And the lines are, "Sir, what are you doing here?" He turns around and says, "I'm a detective, this is my best friend," etc. So the director says, "Okay, George, you want to rehearse?" And George says, "No." And I'm not saying any of those lines. And I'm going, and George says, he'll come in, Ken will come in and he'll say what he has to say. I'll turn around and look at him. And they said, "Okay, George, let's try it." So George C. Scott was known he played Patton in the movie Patton. If you don't know who he is, you look him up. He's a fabulous actor. Get ready. I come into the room. I got my beautiful suit. I look very smart. I look like the head of the hospital. I come in and I say, "Sir, excuse me, what are you doing here?" He turns around as if I'm disturbing him and taking him out of his caring and his whole sense of dealing with what happened to his friend. And he gives me this look, and his eyes and his whole face was shaking, and I had more lines, and all I did was go. And I walked out, and that's the take that's in the movie. And it was incredible, and I learned sometimes less is 1,000% more, and especially when you're working with experienced actors who really can know what's going on. One more. I did a TV show where I'm dealing with a serial killer, and I'm playing the psychiatrist. And he comes in, and it's an early in the piece, and he's coming in and he had a disciplinary problem. So the guy comes in and I'm supposed to talk to him, and I started acting with him as if I knew that this guy was special. And the director came over and said, "It's just one more of 70 people that you've seen today that are coming in to be reprimanded." I went, "Got it." And so I did the scene, and was fabulous. A lot of the times directors will give you that one thing, as I said before, that just keys you in, and it's like, okay, it's routine. So then it was no big deal.
You've booked a job, and you're scared to no end because you now found out that the lead actor is someone of high stature.
Mm-hmm.
Should I get coached?
You booked the job
You booked
already?
It. Yeah, you booked it.
And get coached.
Yes.
For,
once you got the job.
Well, if you feel like you're not going to bring the best choices that you made in the room, and now all of a sudden you're intimidated, then perhaps getting coached will give you that little edge that you need that will help you on the set so you feel you belong. The problem with guest stars or coming in and doing a part in a movie or a TV show is it is weird. You can't deny that it's, they've been there a long time. They've been in through the run of the movie, or they've been on the show forever. Now you're coming in as a guest star. Acknowledge the fact that it's weird. Don't kind of beat yourself up for it. Just go in, try to do your best. And again, as I said, acting is acting. So if you can get coached to make you feel more comfortable and ground yourself, then do that. I also believe the sides, write on the new sides that you have. And then in between takes, look at it to remind yourself, maybe there's something I'm not doing. And then go in and do what you need to do.
Why should an actor get coached?
I mean, anybody that's coaching you usually has more wisdom than you in terms of, or longevity, and understand better. Also, it's great to have another eye on what you're doing. Sometimes people come to me for coaching and they're really prepared. I go, don't touch a thing. It was fabulous. And it's just, sometimes people don't have somebody they can play off of. In coaching, a lot of the times, we coaches will say, that choice isn't bringing the best out of you, or you're not making a choice here, or as I've seen with script analysis, this is the place where you get the job or not, and this is what you have to hit, and this is where you have to be fabulous.
What do you love about acting?
The unpredictability of every day with material, and how every day you have to face the bullet, meaning you're going in, and if you're working, I'm working on Monday on a TV show. I'm feeling the same way I felt 20 years. Anybody that denies that it's not crazy making it's not true. But you go in and it's like adrenaline, and it's fabulous, and you're doing what you love, which is breaking down a script, which is going in, which is working with other people, just bringing me into the moments, and just enjoying breaking it down and doing it.
You have a son and a daughter.
Yeah.
And they're both acting.
Mm-hmm.
And your son is all over the place.
Yeah.
He is hitting it big time.
Yeah, he's a series regular on the Goldbergs. He was in a movie called Project Almanac. He was in a movie called Truth or Dare. He was in Monster House. He played Chowder when he was 9 years old, which was motion capture. My daughter was on The Middle and was on some other TV shows, and she studies with a great acting teacher named Michael Wilson. And she's out there auditioning and getting better and better. And it's a family thing. My brother is an Academy Award nominee for Barton Fink.
Michael Lerner.
Michael Lerner, so it's in the family.
When they started acting, did you coach them? Did you?
Absolutely. He owes me a lot of money. I didn't charge him anything. Sam Lerner, pay up.
How do you deal with your agents?
I try to call my agents with something very positive to ask them about. A project, something that I think I should get into, but mostly it's about, I heard that this is happening, I would love to get an idea, I know this person, so I'm not calling just saying, hey, how come you're not working for me? I'm calling with a very specific idea in mind, because if you call them and say, you're not working for me, I mean, people are people, agents are people. They don't want to hear negativity. So if you can call with something positive about, I know this producer, I know this director, I know this actor, and I think I'm right for this show, that's the way to get in touch with an agent. And don't bug them, because they have a lot of, they have 75, 80 of you who want jobs. Everybody wants jobs. Everybody wants to work. So be specific when you call your agent.
What would you tell your younger self about the business today?
Calm down. Stop trying to get everybody to see how fabulous you are. Do the work. Go in and don't try to impress like crazy. I think the younger me tried to force myself into situations rather than allow myself to be. And I didn't trust the confidence that I have now. That old expression, if you only knew now what you do, when you were younger. Leave yourself alone. You're great. You're you. That's what you're selling. The young Ken needed to smarten up and calm down. That would be the best advice.
What takeaway did you get from Peggy Feury that you have in your toolbox as an actor today?
Humanity. Peggy was really one of those people that wanted she insisted on playing off the other person and really seeing where the other person was coming from, trying to bring out the best in you. And she was very inventive and loved actors. I think all the best acting teachers love actors. Roy loved actors. Peggy loved actors. That's what I took. Stella Adler had problems with. I don't know whether you did
I did
or not.
too. But I
Yeah.
loved her.
Yeah,
So what did you take away from her as an actor?
Her ego. No, the best thing I took away from Stella is the sense of the tradition of the theater and the sense of the theater is bigger than all of us and stop trying to own it. We're all a part of something and there's a real respect. I mean, Uta Hagen wrote that great book, Respect for Acting. Stella Adler
Lived it.
That lived it.
Yeah, she
exactly.
lived it and
Yeah.
taught it.
Yeah, that's who she was.
And her ego always
Unbelievable.
came in before her.
Unbelievable.
But what I will say that I took away from Stella was the writing. That
Yeah.
she was very big on the research
Yep.
and the writing.
Yep.
That you couldn't advance past step 2 if you did not do the research on the period, who the writer of the piece was, what the piece was about, what it was intended. I just finished watching Roy's documentary. One of the things he said, I was reminded of, he said, act what the writer intended.
Right.
Because sometimes you don't get those great pieces of writing. And instead of negating the writing or, talking about how crappy it is, to raise it up.
Absolutely, raise it up. Going back to Stella, the big thing with Stella was she didn't want you to use your personal life. She wanted you to use your imagination. So Stella was very big on writing backstories. And the problem with actors is that it's very hard to write notebook after notebook after notebook rather than just use your whole life. So as young actors, I suggest you take from this teacher, you take from this teacher, you take from this teacher. So Stella had some great things to offer, but the work ethic, I think she's going back to the 30s and 40s. And the work ethic in the 80s and 90s wasn't the same. So it was very hard to keep up and do what Stella wanted. But she was brilliant, and she had that special class. I don't know if you remember. She had a class that all the big stars in town would come to, and she would work on one script. When I was there, it was Men in White by Sidney Kingsley. It was all about doing you do 5 sentences in 3 hours and talked about each word. Why did the writer write this word? And everybody was mesmerized by what she was doing. And it was all about the writing. Yeah.
Yes, she was a beast in that
Absolutely.
in that realm. What would you like your legacy to be?
First of all, loved my family. That I added something to the acting community and nurtured the people around me and raised them up.
And you do that.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. I hope you got a lot of what Ken was talking about regarding acting. In case you need coaching, Ken's the guy for you. To get more information on Ken, please look below. We have links for him so you can contact him to take classes or find out about his acting, about his son, about his brother. We have all the links for you. Let us know what you thought of this interview. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe and to hit the bell for notifications. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. I love you, Ken.